What's up guys, my name is Aaron aka Super Liger Tiger and this is Worth It. Welcome back everyone. In case you forgot what Worth It is, I buy a product, I tell you what I like, what I don't like, the good, the bad, the ugly, and in the comments below you let me know if it's worth it or not. And while you're here, if you can, please like and subscribe so that I can continue to spend more money and make more fun videos like this. So today on Worth It, we're going to talk about this. This is a Nintendo Switch. It is a console where you can play it on both handheld and on your TV. Along with the Nintendo Switch, there is a fun game called Splatoon 2. For this one, it is a third-person shooting game where instead of shooting bullets, you guys shoot ink at each other and whoever covers the most ground wins. It's very kid-friendly, pretty cute, pretty fun, pretty colorful, pretty great. With that being said, in the next few days, there is going to be the release of the third Splatoon, which I am very excited for. So the reason why I bring up Splatoon and my fandomness and excitedness for it is because it ties in today with Worth It. So a few months ago, Nintendo released a newer Switch, which is the OLED Switch. This isn't it, this is the original. And it has a better screen, has some updated things with it that I'll be explaining throughout Worth It. But with today's Worth It in particular, we are going to focus on the special edition that they have for the OLED Switch. Therefore, today's Worth It is going to be the Splatoon 3 Nintendo OLED Switch. Alright, so this is the Nintendo Switch OLED Splatoon 3 Special Edition. It's a lot to say. What I first like about this is that this cardboard does feel really nice. The one for my original Switch felt nice too, and I love that it has good cardboard. On the side, you have some things about the OLED Switch, basically 7-inch screen, 64GB system memory, new dock, adjustable stand, etc, etc. On the back, you have some nice pictures of it and some really cool things. These are some of the new things on here with the new dock. At the front of it, you have basically the Switch is also printed with like Splatoon stuff. The really cool Joy-Cons with the colors. And on the side here, you have basically what's included in the box and Nintendo Switch. And at the top, the usual Nintendo logo. So let's open this up. This one is actually pretty simple to open. I love that too. I'm going to turn it this way for me to open. And wow, right in the front, you have the Switch, you have the two Joy-Cons. That is very nice. This is really nice packaging. Taking out the Switch, so far weight does feel about the same as my other one, but we'll plug everything in and check. Here are the Joy-Cons. They are obviously the same Joy-Cons as the Switch itself. Below the top layer, you have on the bottom the dock, which is wrapped up very nicely in this plastic wrap and the other wrap, and you have your charging cable, you have your HDMI cable, you have the ones that you put on the top of the Joy-Cons in case you want to use them more like handheld like that. And underneath is basically the simple version of using a Pro controller. You just attach your Joy-Cons here and you can use a controller instead of that. And then underneath this layer is absolutely nothing. So yeah, that is the Nintendo Switch OLED Splatoon 3 version. So because so many of you have a Switch or know about the Switch or everything like that, the Worth It today is going to be a little bit different. Instead of really breaking down what the Switch is, I'll still kind of go over things that I'm noticing. It's going to be a lot more comparing to the original Switch. From the dock to the Joy-Cons to the screen itself, what exactly is the big difference between the OLED Switch and the original Switch, and is it really worth it to upgrade? So we'll start with the dock. Here are the two docks side by side. This one is for the old Switch, this one is for the OLED. They are basically the same height, they are similar in shape, nothing really different. The only thing is for the new one, it has this like plastic lining on here, whereas the old one doesn't. On the back, what I like a lot is the change here for the wires. So if you look at the old one, it does have like a stopgap here for the wires, but here it just goes all the way, which I think actually makes wiring moving a lot easier. Things don't get like stuck down here, and this change is a really good one for me personally. On here, the sides are basically the same. You have your two USB ports. On the inside, sorry this one's so dusty, this part also comes off for the new OLED Switch, but we have basically the same thing, whereas this one has a few more vents than the old dock. And on here, it does have a LAN port so that you can connect your Switch through Ethernet, which would help for like Switch Online, which I think is pretty cool. And this one just had HDMI, USB, and the adapter. So it has 3 USB ports for the old one and 2 for the new one. And I also do really like the front of this one, but that's only because this is the Splatoon edition. I like the Splatoon Splat and the design it has here. And obviously this one is just the normal black dock. For the switches themselves, first of all, if you do get a Switch, whether it's an old one or the OLED, get a screen cover, because I put so many fingerprints on this new one already, and there's a ton here also. I'm full of oil, and you probably are too, so get a screen protector as soon as possible. Besides that, the Joy-Cons are absolutely the same. There's no change to that. The biggest change, besides the screen, is that if you go to the back, on here, you have this very difficult kickstand that is always trouble for me to open, along with the micro SD card port here. And you have your kickstand, just does that. But for the back of the new OLED, this whole thing is the kickstand, which I love so much. So you can just open it like this. It's pretty stiff, so you don't have to worry about it falling. And the micro SD port is here, going like towards this way instead of going upwards like the original Switch. You could change however high you want it to a lower one, and yeah, I love this change here for the stand. It's so much easier, and I feel like I have a lot more control with it. Now looking at the screens, which is the biggest upgrade of the Switches. On the original Switch, this is what it looks like. You have your big thicky bezel here, and then switching over to the new OLED Switch, switching over, you have this much bigger screen that has also a bezel, but not as much. Here's the two screens side by side, but this one has so much more room for activities. This one, just after looking at the OLED Switch, it feels like this one has a lot more constraints with the bezel compared to here. The OLED screen, which is kind of hard to see in like the bright light we have right now, is a lot nicer. It's a lot brighter. The colors, I feel like, look a lot nicer for games themselves. Like if I open Cult of the Lamb, and I just feel like these colors are very nice and very great. So besides all the comparisons, we arrive at the most important part, the gameplay. So for the comparison of both the OLED Switch and the original Switch, I'm using Cult of the Lamb on both Switches, and I got some gameplay recorded, so I'll talk about that one. Now, performance-wise for both games, on the left we have the older Switch playing Cult of the Lamb. On the right we have the OLED Switch playing Cult of the Lamb as well. It, to me, doesn't really look like there's a huge difference. The OLED does seem like it's a bit faster with the movement and everything, although the game isn't really running all that great on the Switch overall, so that might be a detriment to the test. But it does feel like, looking at the two footages, that the one on the right is slightly faster. So for my next gameplay example, I will be using Pokemon Snap on the Switch, which, if you haven't played this, is a very great game. It does look a little hectic in these clips, but it isn't as hectic as it seems. Once again, the one on the left, or the footage on the left, is for the old Switch, and the footage on the right is for the new OLED Switch. And after reviewing these, it doesn't feel like there's that much of a difference between the speed of gameplay, between loading, between everything like this. It actually feels very like the same. I didn't really notice a huge difference in performance when I was playing both of them on either of the Switches. So overall, I do love this new OLED Switch. I love how much bigger the screen is. I love how much like space there is and how like smaller the bezel is compared to the old one. I love the changes that they made here, especially with the back being able to open up all the way and you could just display it at whatever height you want to. I think those are really great changes. But overall, is the new OLED Switch worth it at a cost of $350? Whereas the original Switch is still at $300. So is $50 really a difference maker in terms of deciding on how much you want to buy a Switch? And then even if you do want to go an even cheaper route, you do have the Nintendo Switch Lite, which is still available at $200 also. So in the end, the decision is mostly yours to make. If you do want to upgrade, have the brighter screen, the more, I guess, intense screen as well compared to the old Switch, it is very great for that. If you already have a Switch and from my video don't really see anything that really means you're able to upgrade or you really need to upgrade from what you have, then that is the route you can go to. But personally, as I just mentioned, I love it. I think it's great. So in the end, I paid a grand total of $350. The Splatoon edition is an extra $10 more than the other OLED Switches, but that's because it's the limited edition Splatoon one. If you also are going to be getting Splatoon 3 and you potentially want to play with me, let me know your Nintendo friend code and I'll try to play sometime. I'm not great and you're probably going to lose, but it's okay. So in the end, once again, I paid $350 for the new OLED Splatoon 3 Switch. Is it worth it? Let me know!